I'm Larry Hertzog, creator of Nowhere Man. I'm sitting with Ian Toynton, who directed 3 of our best episodes.
Or at least it was. I'm a photographer.
And we're about to watch Through a Lens Darkly, which is one of my personal favorites.
Career. And in one moment it was all taken
And that's
away.
all we have to say. Thank you.
Because of a single
Thank you, Larry.
I have it. They want it. And they will do anything.
It's my favorite. It's one of my favorites in the sense of I love the idea to begin with. And I just think that the emotional impact of watching this episode, it really takes you emotionally on a trip, which again, I've said before, television, episodic television usually doesn't do that. It doesn't grab you, and you know, this is a sort of heartfelt episode. It's also pretty interesting. And the basic thing in this episode was, like Enemy Within, I think it's probably, not that Ian did both of these for this reason, but this was an episode designed specifically, again, to show not just what's going on in Tom's life, but who he is, what might be his flaws, to open questions about his basic personality. But it also gave us an opportunity to introduce a relationship that we hadn't thought of or planned until we got to this episode. But that had nothing to do with Allison or anything else, and follow the relationship. I just love it. It's got so many great looks to it, and you know, just from every shot that I'm looking at now, Ian did an amazing job.
It's also quite interesting because I haven't seen this for some time, and you suddenly a lot of things come shooting back into your mind, like the scene that we just shot in that where the vending machine is. That was a 3-wall set. I mean, that was a huge room, and we just built foreground, a lot of I mean, I think there were bits of old set that were lying around, and it created a sort of slightly voyeuristic viewpoint, and it's something that I like to do quite a bit, and it's certainly in that particular scene it worked, I think, very well.
Yeah, this show, again, I've said this as well, so bears repeating it, or doesn't, but this started out with an idea I had early on, just House of Memories. That was the extent of the idea. It didn't go beyond that. And then when Art Monticelli came aboard, we finally had a few moments to discuss what House of Memories meant, where it could go. So it starts with you know, this is the not typical, but it is the sort of trademark Nowhere Man grab, as he's going to be thrown into yet whatever the adventure of the week is.
Nothing to tell, really. Just a couple of delivery boys.
It's also interesting, I was saying to Larry earlier, that Portland was a huge bonus for the series. I mean, the weather was right. There's something far more exciting shooting in a damp, wet street at night than there is on a beautiful day in a park. And this show really did lend itself to that sort of atmosphere. Portland was a great choice.
This is an episode Peter and I were talking at one point about not just how Portland led to all these practical locations, which you were saying gives it an edge and stuff, but also just how much variety we got out of it. I mean, just in Enemy Within, it's the middle of the Midwest in Pennsylvania, and here we're all over the place, including northern Belfast, Northern Ireland. It's just great. It's just something we could not do in LA.
And also, when you build a set, I mean, sets are much easier to shoot on, but in a way, they don't have dark corners in the same way a house does, because a house is built for a totally different purpose. It's to be lived in, and it's not to be shot. And there are things in this house, there are angles in this house that you probably, if you build a set, you'd make it easier for yourself, and that maybe isn't always the best thing.
And this is so ultimate, and this is wonderful stuff. The transitions in this are a big part of what I loved about conceiving this, the way you shot it, everything. It just...
I didn't think you were ever gonna find me. Tom, you're not playing the game the way it's supposed to be
And it was
played.
very important we did them in a
You're not
way
playing
that was
fair.
as
You said you
organic
couldn't
as
find
possible.
your
They had
own
to
move.
flow.
Not
It wasn't a
hiding.
case of just a
I'm shooting
cut.
in
It
plain
just,
sight.
it's like
Right.
the shot of Bruce there, that you come from his close-up
Why do we
down
play
onto the mirror rather than just going from his close-up and cutting to the mirror. Anything that actually made it seem
I'll play
almost
anything you want.
seamless.
And
Yeah, it's one. I mean, part of the fun of this, aside from just the watching this relationship grow between two people from the time they're kids, and I think that's the big pleasure for me, is just how it's being done.
Yeah.
You know, how it's being executed. It's still, no matter, despite the fact that it's a romance and a character study, it's still fundamentally nowhere, man. It's weird.
Yeah.
You know, how is this happening? Why is this happening?
I just want to know the rules.
You guys cast these kids up there,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
you want to talk a little
Yeah.
bit about what you were looking for, especially for Bruce?
Well, for Bruce, and in fact, there's a classic example where Bruce had a habit of running his hand. I love this moment. I must say, it was so much about that emphasis. That was a precursor of their entire relationship.
This is also a beautiful theme that Mark did that runs
Yeah.
through the episode, which just goes it just adds so much more to what makes it so great.
You see, you just couldn't afford to build all this.
Right. And if some people had it their way, we would not have been able to shoot all this, afford to shoot all this. Do you really need the middle? And yet, and I think it was one of the things Art and I worked the hardest on beyond getting the idea, was to make sure that all through this relationship, it's bringing out things about time.
There it is. There's that
your
moment.
Yeah.
That Bruce does later on. In fact, it became, I mean, almost a
But you know,
character habit throughout the season.
you know, as I was saying, despite just the romance and the relationship, it was always necessary that this make comments about Tom Vail. You know, and I think it does that so effectively.
Now we're bonded for life.
Kids are great. I mean, you had a lot of things you had to do. You had to get a kid for that you could believe was Bruce as a kid.
Yeah.
You had to get a girl actress who you would believe evolves in 2 stages.
Doing out there?
And this is Tom. This is classic Tom.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going out for I need to look at the world from my point of view and risk myself to do it.
Jeez, Laura, you should see this view. I mean, you can
Now
see
that
the
we
whole
did
world.
build, we did build that roof.
Film for Tom.
Yeah, it is.
We didn't build it that
Watch
high,
this.
obviously, but this
Tom, please be careful.
shot here coming up,
Look, no hands.
that's our set.
Pretty impressive. I was down in LA, I believed it all. When you threw that little kid off
That
the
was a
roof.
great, that was a lovely
Yeah.
moment as well, rolling him into that. I remember this as well because there's a moment when we shielded the doll by using Bruce's shoulder so that he could actually get the head to come off. Because I couldn't get the head to come off when it rolled down.
You know, we get back, this is the nowhere man part. You know, the
Yeah.
memory's over,
Yeah.
and now this stuff is there to freak you out.
Yeah.
What's
He was
going
so perfectly cast, Bruce.
on? Yes, amazing. I mean, I've heard other directors comment, you know, on the job, and Bruce comment, but mostly Art commented on it about the job he had to not know things that
Yeah.
most actors need to
Yeah.
know about their characters. Yeah, this stuff, part of what was fun about building this was connecting all this ultimately at the end. Like, what are those guys doing there?
What-
It's
yeah.
such an anomaly when it appears here. and we were just talking about it earlier, about that Nowhere Man could go from just, drama like the love relationship into a very stark theatrical quality, which starts on Sam here, really, and continues to later in the episode, which is...
Some people experience that when they sleep, that they're going to die from some kind
Those close-ups have
inflicted
a
asphyxia.
really they have important value. They
Must
just,
be absolutely horrifying.
and it's so,
Oh, don't worry.
quite often you don't have the time to do them, and yet they are important to the scene.
Just enough time for us to have a little chat.
Also, too, in Nowhere Man, and you captured this as well, if not better than everyone else, was
That's only glass.
most of what you experience emotionally isn't really the dialogue. It's very little of it is expositional.
Yeah,
It's the feeling.
yeah.
It's this.
And that's terribly important when one tries to create an atmosphere and a mood within which the actor works. And that makes a huge statement.
Yeah, I'm realizing as we're watching this too, that we were asking of an audience, a television audience,
Yeah, a huge
to
amount.
experience, go on this ride with us without going, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I don't get what's going on. You were hoping that if you were doing your job well as writers and directors, that you were drawing people in, that they would want to, but there's a level on which I look at this and say, how many people in the average television audience would say, what is this nonsense?
Yeah.
And how many people in our television audience, initially said that
I can
at some
change
point?
everything and still leave you with enough of your precious.
But to me, that's what's fascinating, is not just seeing the next turn in, like a soap opera, what happens. It's I have no idea. This is fascinating. I want to see where
Where it
I
gets
want to go on the ride
What's
with it.
happened with everything in your life since then? Your relentless pursuit of the truth, no matter what the cost. My God, the cost. You don't know anything.
It's such a wonderfully underplayed performance by Sam.
Yeah, he's just magnificent. I mean, like the pilot, in a way, I've said it was one of those rare things that instead of everything going wrong, everything went right. I think this episode was the same way. Getting Sam, having you there, getting Sydney at the last
I
minute.
can see why they like you so much.
Spare me the crap. You work for them.
I also love the way that it's introduced later on that he was exactly the same position. In fact, he said it there.
So the sooner you realize that we have something in common, then the sooner all of this can end.
And what is this elusive thing that you and I both want?
Isn't it what all men want? An escape from the dark side of our consciousness.
Very Art Monticelli right there.
Sophocles probably said it best when he simply
And
called
quoting people.
memory without pain.
I only get to quote the person at the Burger King window. Art can quote these significant, lofty sounding people. So someone had to lift up the caliber. Yeah, Sam's just wonderful. Again, it's also the focus of the episode. Oh, that's so cool. He's gone. The focus of the episode is let's focus on your lifetime and one of your big, perhaps, shortcomings, and you may just have to look at this event, not just once, but repeatedly.
This is where this set, where having a house is so, it was such an advantage to us. You just wouldn't design, you couldn't afford to design a
Right, with the stairways and the banisters and the nooks and crannies. There's that prop falling off the edge.
That's.
But only we know
We'll,
that. I won't tell.
Let's
I won't tell
move
it was
on
actually
from that
falling
one.
down. Little Hansel and Gretel thing going on, Nowhere Man style, following the breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Where is it? Where
I love that moment as well.
We got to give Tom credit on a certain level. Tom was always somewhat optimistic. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. And of course, it was my pure pleasure, never fundamentally allowing him to. A feeling I think
It's strange because I also love bringing actors to the camera rather than cutting to their close-up. Let them move into their close-up. Again, it keeps it much more fluid.
You were saying something to me earlier. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but about how the fundamental premise of Nowhere Man has this level of believability, if not literally, you know, the condition, you know, that's almost just dark, or am I making that up?
No.
Did you find my contact?
Sorry, I was.
Oh, you were admiring
I
your
was
work.
no, I was just. Again, it's a transition. It's as fluid as we could make it.
Right.
Except that I don't wear contacts.
And also wardrobe. I'm great credit to wardrobe and hair
Fell
here,
through one of
Right.
the mile-wide
because you
cracks in our
just believe it's
beautiful
that period.
painted hardwood floors.
I thought you liked hardwood floors.
I mean, he looks so much younger.
Yeah. That's the method. You just think younger and you look younger.
No, I've tried that, Larry. It doesn't work.
Okay.
It's this whole city. I had no idea Belfast would be like this.
It's interesting because
gonna be like?
emotionally, to me, Sydney takes up so much of this episode, but she doesn't really appear till, you know, the back half, the back third, whatever.
London can be pretty
it breaks
dreary this
down
time
to.
of year, too.
Yes, I know it can. But half of London isn't bombed out.
I said in an interview
just don't wanna
about
go
her
around while you
that she
photograph
did such a
me.
good job, and I only read her as Laura. We had no time to chat or
it's been
talk.
like
She
this
came
since
in,
the
she
second
read
World
for
War.
Laura. It was wow. Send her up to Portland. She probably had 13 minutes to pack and
not talking
get
about
up
the
there because it was
architecture of the
11th
damn
hour.
city,
But I said I watched this episode and sort of fell in love with her, and then had her and Sam over to watch the episode at my place, and she wasn't Laura at all. So I was really amazed by
She's an
the
outstanding
wonderful
actress.
work she did, because there was not Laura, but Sydney. I was going, oh, wow.
The assignments
She's
you get
good.
are more and more dangerous. And the pictures you take are so powerful I can't even look at them anymore.
And you have an enormous sympathy with both of them here.
Laura, that's
You sympathize with his
finding the
beliefs, what he
truth
wants
in
to
the
do, what
horror.
he's
That's-
trying to do with his life, and you understand her predicament totally.
You're still that little boy trying to stay on top of the world, Tom.
Yeah, one of the,
Hoping to find some
in this
greater
episode,
truth.
unlike Enemy
Some
Within,
greater truth
where
that
I think it was
simply
more
doesn't
open-ended
exist.
for me, where you were saying,
Look at what our lives
should
have
Tom
been
have
these last
stayed
few
or
years.
should he have
All the
gone?
award-winning
This
photographs,
episode
and still
tends at the
nothing
end to answer
changes.
that question a little bit more
There's always another war coming,
about
always
whether
another
his choices
tragedy.
were, at least in terms of the context of the episode, right.
Yeah, and he's without a doubt they were right.
I guess I just want to have some faith in us for a change. I'm gonna take a walk. I'm not gonna stray into any dangerous neighborhoods. I just want a chance to clear my head.
I hate that. I hate when you're having a heated discussion and women say, I gotta, like, you know,
These things.
go make a phone call. I gotta go.
I loved. I can't remember now whether it was scripted. It well might have been, but using the mirror there.
I think everything that really is good was in the script.
It could well have been. It could well have been, but it did work
I
beautifully.
have no recollection. And this is that sequence I talked
Yeah.
about before, that we keep building,
Yeah.
and each time it
We
comes
see a little
in,
bit further.
we see a little bit further.
It's strange because we shot. I remember shooting this again. Now it's becoming quite vivid in my mind. I didn't want to get too long lens on this because it was still part of it. It was a different time. So by shooting it on wider lenses, I mean, if I reshot this today and wanted to make it not necessarily a contemporary piece, but I would have gone for much longer lenses on this.
I love this guy.
Here you go.
I love this guy.
Come with me to the airport. Just see my flight off.
I can't, Tom.
Continually, other people have said it, I've said it, but I actually feel better when other people say it, because I may just be enjoying myself too much. Just how much production value and how good looking Nowhere Man was.
And this is they were 7-day shoots.
Right, right.
I love you too.
Huge production value.
I mean, just in the look with the lighting, what Jim could get us, it doesn't look
Yeah.
like television. You know, it looks to me like you're watching a scene in a movie. Yeah, I love this stuff.
There's a very interesting moment coming up. When the bomb goes off, it was quite important to me that what I did was I actually went up and banged the side of the magazine on the camera, and I did it reasonably gently. We'll see it in a minute, because I wanted, the subtler it was, the more effective I felt.
Right.
The bomb, the more I believed it. If the whole thing had shot,
Yeah.
I would have lost that credibility. But by just subtly banging it, and I think the effect was just. It was everything I'd hoped it would have been.
What's going on up there?
Probably a roadblock.
Probably a roadblock.
Another bomb. Don't you worry, we'll make a flight with time to spare.
I want you to take me back.
What?
I want you to take me back into the city.
I thought you had a 2 o'clock flight to make.
I don't care about the
I
flight.
love
Just
this
take me to my
actor. He's
apartment.
just
he was
so authentic.
Yeah, so
Here we go. Ian almost breaking a camera.
and here it comes.
Yeah.
Sweet mother of mercy. Keep going. What are you talking about?
I'm a photographer.
I don't care if you're the Virgin herself. I'm not going down that street.
I don't blame you.
Hey!
And now, of course, we come full circle to that sequence we've been building and building and building to say what it meant and where we've been going all this time. Hoping that people beyond just us cared at this point.
I think they did.
I hope so.
They have to.
This stuff looks so great, Ian. Could we do this again?
I would like to do it.
Yeah, I would love to do this with you. Great. Says
yeah,
so
this is-
much.
yeah.
The old picture's worth 1,000 words. I mean, this was a relationship he had since he was about 12.
That was an amazing moment. It's one of my favorite moments in the show.